Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
And a big CFN welcome to all you. Look at all you guys. I'm just amazed. I figured our numbers would be down a little bit today because, of course, the CFN FishOFF started this weekend. But I want to say hello to Sean. I want to say hello to David Craig. Jason BARNUCZ is with us. He's hopefully going to go have a shower. He looks soaked from well, he's going to explain to everyone why he is soaked, but he's just getting back from something really, really cool. Christina's in the house. How you doing? Steve Shaw. God bless you, Steve Shaw. And all your fantastic edits, my friend. You are doing some fantastic work. And I know you are because you're on top of the inbox. You're on top of all the edits. You are killing it. William TB, buddy, you qualified for tonight's giveaway. We're going to be getting to that real soon. Sally and Barry have been out and about with the CFN FishOFF. Mad Camp Plastics is in the house. How we doing? Juan Calabretto. Is that? I hope I said that right, Juan. I apologize if I didn't. Looks like you are part of the CFN FishOFF. Cool. Great having you here. Terry's in the house. Jeremy, yes, sir. Well, listen, let's get right to it. We don't want to make it a long show because, of course, perhaps maybe you're out doing what you can to qualify for the CFN FishOFF. As I said, that started this Friday. So let's bring in Mike Consul for a quick update. Here he is right now. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
Good. Look at my shirt. It says great catch. And that's what I want to say to all the participants who've entered their fish for the CFN FishOFF so far, because there have been some great catches. Oh, my gosh. Let me just say a couple of them. And then we'll go into more detail come Tourney Tuesday tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So please join us. Yes, Scotty.
I'm just putting my hand up, Mike, because you are right. And I was hoping to get to them. Perhaps I might get to them tonight. But for Monster Monday, there were a few monsters that were submitted this past weekend, one of which was a freshwater drum that I think was well over the 24-inch mark. But you go ahead. You take it from there.
Yep. So there was an Arctic char all the way from one of our Northwest territories. I think it was from Nunavut, which is, wow, that is amazing. Our first ever tiger muskie was entered. So that was awesome. And then when you bring Jason on, ask him how rare it is to catch a flathead catfish, because for the first time ever, a flathead catfish was entered in the CFN FishOFF. So I've never even seen one.
I will.
Maybe he has.
Yeah, he's listening as we speak. So yeah, I'm sure he's going to be writing down his answer. But a flathead, depending, where was it caught, Mike? What province?
I got to check. I believe it's Ontario. Oh. In Lake Ontario.
In Lake Ontario.
I have to double check. Yeah, I have to double check because the judges were going crazy. They're like, no way. And then they had to do some ID features, realized it wasn't a bullhead, and it was, in fact, a flathead catfish. So that's pretty amazing.
Wow. Yeah, Bradley's in here right now. Flathead catfish has to be the most amazing fish ever submitted. There's been a couple. I'll have to say that, Shane Richard with that one buffalo. There's been some gems, I'll tell you, in the fish.
So a couple things, but definitely join us tomorrow. We'll go through it more. Thank you for all those who have handled their fish with utmost care. I see people saying on camera, like Juan, and Juan sent me a video. He wet his hands before he got the brook trout. People putting mats on the floor for carp. There's some really great practices out there. People deciding, you know what, I'm not even going to measure this fish like Dallas, who caught a muskie. I'm just going to enter it, say the code, and release it. I'm not going to bother measuring it. So some great decision making out there. But there are some fish that there's a bunch of sand on it, or and I know you can't control it thrashing, but definitely do your best and try to keep the fish's health as a priority.
Mike, I'll be honest with you. Fish offs in the past, the first week, and I can totally understand because there's a human element involved in it. The excitement, you can totally get the excitement. There's been a huge buildup of excitement leading up to this, but I have to say, and you just touched on it, the fish care and the handling in this first weekend of the CFN Fish Off has to go down as one of the best I've seen.
Yeah, for sure. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. Yeah. So, keep that in mind, everyone. But it is much better than in the past. Now, here's the thing, and then after this, I'll go. But if you notice there's a fish that might have a lot of dirt on it or whatever mistake, unpurposed mistake happens, know that the judges are watching every single entry. So there's really no need for other members to chime in and 70 people say, hey, you shouldn't do that. We will do it. And what we've been doing is when we see something that needs addressing, automatically we're turning off the comments on that post because we don't want, like 75 home conservationists telling that person what to do. We'll do it. So trust us, we'll do it. So just keep that in mind in terms of how you handle it. And if something does get posted from a novice angler or someone just making a mistake, us judges will make sure that they are educated.
Couple questions, Mike. Are we going to be doing any draws tomorrow at all?
Tomorrow we could do there's a couple of pre-tournament draws, but our first Shimano deadline date is not until next Sunday, which is our purchase category. So yellow perch, walleye, and sauger. So that deadline is Sunday, which is the Sunday coming up. But we do have some pre-tournament draws that we will be doing tomorrow. So make sure you are there. And just before I go, hats off to all the judges. We didn't have time to fish this weekend because we were looking at all your fish. So thank you all judges for devoting that time.
And as I thought, there was going to be a heck of a lot of entries. But Mike, this is some of the stuff that's happening sort of behind the scenes as our judges and yourself are working very, very hard to get the submissions correct, get late entries, configured in terms of teams, making sure you're doing the right thing when it comes to identify species. I get letters from a CFNer, Tricia, who has sent, courtesy of Craig Minch, some products, some bandit products that are going to add to the CFN Fish Off prize pack. These are some beautiful prizes for a potential winner, but beautiful stuff. And I want to thank Tricia for sending it our way. And of course, Craig for offering them up to the CFN Fish Off. This is some beautiful stuff right here. So just some stuff that's going on behind the scenes is just incredible. Our community never ceases to amaze me, but we're certainly going to have enough prospects. That's for sure.
Yeah. So thank you, Craig. And that was two members teaming up. Craig says, I'll donate this stuff, but shipping is not free, but Tricia stepped up and said, hey, just get them to me and then I'll take care of the shipping. So thank you to our members for teaming up and making it better for everybody.
Amen, brother. Well, listen, I'll let you go. I know you got to get going, but we'll see you tomorrow. And stay tuned, everyone. We were going to be starting the first of many draws.
Tomorrow, 7 o'clock, join us. And I am off to the dentist. But while I'm in the waiting room, I will be watching CFN Live.
Right on, buddy. You take care, my friend. Okay, a couple other announcements. Speaking of a fish off, there's also another competition going on, which is called the CFN Cook-Off. And it's happening on Cooking on CFN Facebook page. Beer batter is the bait to go outdoor flavor of the 2-week segment. I believe we have 2 entries so far. We're looking for a couple more. It'd be nice to see a couple more, but I know you guys are busy with the CFN Fish Off. But this is going to run for a few because there's 6 flavors. 2 weeks, so it's going to run for 12 weeks. So hopefully you'll be able to enter at least the beer batter or some of the other spices as the cook-off goes on. But I wanted to draw your attention to that. Thanks so much to Bait to Go Outdoor Flavors for setting that up. Cameron Tate reached out to me today and said that one of his delicious recipes that's going to be going in Jim McLaughlin's Just Fishing is going to actually include some bait to go outdoor flavors as well. So very, very cool stuff. But just keep that in mind. Cooking with CFN, if you have a beer batter recipe, you just have to get some bait to go, add it to your recipe, show us how it's done, and show us the final product, and yum, yum, yum. Here we go. Speaking of other contests, of course, this beautiful thing behind me, the inaugural CFN Signature Series hoodie, courtesy of One Last Cast. They did a fantastic job, and everybody who's ordered it, you're going to love it. It takes about 6 weeks from the time you order to the time you receive it. Just keep that in mind. But they're all made in Manitoba. That's the beautiful thing about these things. They're made. Canadians are making this stuff for us. So awesome. And, of course, the CFN jersey. I see it everywhere, whether it's the old ones, the new ones. God love you. But anybody who's purchased a new one or one of these hoodies, your name is going to be entered into a draw. And I am literally going to give you one of my favorite rods. I would have to say this is my favorite rod, the SLX. It is a 6/8 one-piece medium light spin cast rod and teamed up with a Noski. Deadly combo. I'm going to be giving that away. We're going to spin a wheel. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to close that up, but in the meantime, as long as walleye are open, shipping for the hoodie is free. So I think you're good till March is when they actually close. If you're also looking for some CFN swag, I spoke to Tom, and it's been tough. We talk about it all the time. The supply chain is broken. They are slowly rebuilding it, but Tom's got swag that is slowly coming in, blanks that are slowly coming in. So if you're looking for some CFN swag, head over to Rise Outdoor Apparel and just shop away, and we'd love to see you in some swag. On a sad note, I got to bring this up, and I know we're probably going to be talking about this, whether it's myself and Lawrence, Jim, but I definitely know Jay and I are going to be talking about it. This was shared to my timeline. I hate seeing stuff like this, and I'll say why I hate seeing it. Because if you read the story, and it's available in Muskoka 411 and a whole bunch of other news media outlets, whether it be on social media or print media or the web, it's horrifying to see it. Some of the pictures that are associated, disgusting. All I know is this isn't CFN. This is just not how CFN operates. But it's a double-edged sword. You know, you give this kind of notoriety to the individual that did this. They're obviously trying to gain some attention, because you don't throw away 64 walleye and let them rot for nothing. Like that, just people just don't act like that. So you're obviously trying to get some attention, and you obviously achieve that. And unfortunately, that's what happens with social media, print media, and all these other media outlets, is we give people like this a stage. The reason I am bringing it up is because Jay and I are going to talk about what you do if, in fact, you were there and you actually were witnessing this. Some people freeze. Some people just don't know what to do. Sometimes it's difficult to get involved. So instead of giving this person attention, because I don't want to draw any attention to the details of what I mean, I've said most of it anyway, but what we want to do is educate anglers on what to properly do if you come across something like this as it's happening, or if you hear it after the fact. So Jay and I will be talking about that. Also, next week is Yvonne Brown's Ladies Night segment, and our beloved Adele from Accessible Angling, Adele Dobin, is going to be on just before, if not, is it just before or just after she gets back from Camp McIntosh? But it's pretty close. It's either or. She just comes back, or she just before she goes. Anyway, and don't forget, we'll be spinning the wheel later tonight for the Mad Cam and Walters Bait prize pack. And there's some Senkos, some paddle tails. There's some, look at these look at the beaver tails. Look at how thick those things are. We've got Ned rigs, and we've got some Senkos. And I might even throw in a prize pack myself. But anyway, we'll be spinning the wheel. And folks, all you have to do, thank you so much for those who take the time to tag the individual tackle stores. There was only a handful of you this week, but I thank you. Like the people that took the time to do that, you're going to be rewarded. Somebody's going to be rewarded. But it's cross promotion, and it helps not only an upstart company like MadCam, like Walter's Baits, get a little bit of notoriety, but it also gives a plug to the store. It's a win-win. It's cross-promotion. It's what CFN stands by, and it's one of our foundation premises is all about cross-promotion. That's how it all works. So let's see. Christina, order a CFN hoodie from out of Manitoba. I want to get Tracy one before the retreat. Well, you can go. I don't know if Steve's here and he can put up the link, but it's one last cast. Unfortunately, what's going to scare everybody is they're going to see American dollars. That's unfortunately the website, because it is an American company, but they employ a fabricating and production company in Manitoba that produces all of these hoodies. So there's no cross-border nonsense. You know, you're not going to have to pay taxes, duty, or tariffs or any of that crap. It strictly is made. The order goes to our folks down in the States. They push the order to Manitoba. They make the hoodie and send it direct from Manitoba across Canada. So we don't have to deal with any of the cross-border stuff that currently is going on. And if you've ever ordered something outside of Canada, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So before we speak to our beloved Big Jim McLAUGHLIN, here is the most favorite video for all CFNers right here, right now. Jimbo slicing everything nice, the sexiest man in fishing right here, right now, right in front of your eyes. How you doing, Jim?
Not too bad yourself. Hope everybody's good out there.
Well, we've got Jen out on the water. I'm sure Sally and Barry are probably somewhere near a creek's edge. We've got folks who are probably just getting back from a day of fishing, perhaps getting back from work. Either way, it has been a scorcher. It's been a hot one. Anybody that's been out fishing, God bless you. Because, you know, as I said, it is a passion, and it's hard to explain when you're out sweating to death and cooking in your own skin, but it is what it is. You remember those days, correct, Jim?
Oh, I remember it, buddy. I remember when we used to fish tournaments, and you went 7, 8, 9 days in a row. It'd be 30 degrees, but it didn't get that hot back then. It only got to 30, 29, not 31, 32. Yeah, it was pretty hot here. It's really dark here right now. There's big storms between us and Ottawa going through, and some of them are like showing purple in the middle on the radar. So that's like as heavy as it gets. So it's going to be pretty wild.
That's awesome.
Good week here, though. I really got, you know, out the back here. I've got all those Canada geese out there that have, you know, it's like they're like my nemesis now. You're like they've got like 100 babies between the three families, and all they do all night long is fight on the lawn. They never, and one day, one mom will have like 50 or 60 following her, and one will have 5, and the other will have 35 or so, and the next day they're all even. I don't think they know whose or whose. I really believe that.
Unreal.
Because they're all different sizes. The first ones that came are like, they're the size of like a chicken you'd put in the oven now. The other ones that showed up are like this now. They're little balls, but they're not with their mom because they can't be that small. It's just priceless. Put the lawn back there. The grandkids came by. They didn't want to go fishing because there was too much poopy on the lawn. You can't walk around. Fortunately, the guy comes to cut the grass tomorrow. I'm going to have him buzz the back twice.
Yeah.
Just to sort of hopefully get rid of it a little bit. But we bought all these stakes that you put in the ground, and a really brightly colored rope, and it's got little grooves in the stakes that to hang the rope on.
Okay.
And I already have a yellow rope down there now, but they use it to floss their beaks now. It doesn't bother them at all. First, when it went up, they wouldn't go near it. They'd circle back and forth, and now they wade through it, fall over it, break the sticks. They don't care. They're coming to my lawn.
Well, and we've all seen the pictures and the videos, and as A-Rod has said, your lawn must be just covered in poop, and I can only imagine what
it's horrible. You know what the really cool thing is there's the swans have shown up here with babies, and this is the first time since we've been here. And yesterday we come in and to the back of the laneway, and there's the two mom or the mom and the dad are sitting, and the 4 baby swans are up mucking around doing what they do. And one of the big swans, the adults got up, and it was like 75 decent, and they just walked toward them, and they just all shifted to the other side of the lawn. And then it sat down there and looked at them for a bit, and then it got up and sort of flew over about 20 feet and landed in front of them, and they all took off. So I hired the swan. We had a chat last night. Free popcorn for the family for the rest of the year to keep them away. Goose sausage. Yeah, Joe, you got it, buddy.
Now, Jim, some tips that you can give anglers. I mean, obviously everybody knows, stay hydrated. Are there any other tips that you can give folks who are out on the water in this kind of heat? There isn't much of a breeze, and it's 30+ degree weather with 98.9% humidity. What can you do to keep cool, keep your muscles loose, and keep focused on targeting fish?
Yeah, like the bit about being hydrated. I see people go out and they bring out half a dozen bottles of Gatorade with them. Well, Gatorade doesn't do any good for you until you've lost that stuff out of your body. Because if it isn't gone, what is it, electrolytes and all that? They come up. So you gotta get rid of those first. So I just tell them, and I say drink water. Just drink a pile of water. Sometimes when I'm out in the boat, I don't know whether you noticed when we were out that day, it wasn't that hot. We had the big thunderstorm and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, I probably drank 6 bottles of water in the boat. Yeah. And it never bothered me, And I've had a few days out here since we've been here where it's like dead calm. And which usually isn't that good for the fishing. It depends though. But and you literally drink 6, 8, 10 bottles of water, and you get a little bit cooked up. But and with the clothing that we have today, you can get really nice light clothing to wear. You can wear a buff around your neck to keep the sun off it. Sunscreen is a must. Like I know so many guys that have that. Like I've got 10 or 15 melanoma scars on me where it's been cut out. Mark Thorpe, the musky guy in Montreal, two years ago was the last time I got to see Mark, and he says, "Yeah, I got 12 more cut out of my neck and my arms." Jeez, 12 more. Not he's had 12 more, and that's because for 25 years he's in the sun 150 days a year or more probably. Yeah, trolling up and down the St. Lawrence River. He catches 350 muskies a year in his boat, and that's not him catching them, that's his clients. And a lot of those clients are not really fishermen. They're people that they want to catch a muskie, so they hire a guide.
Yeah. Now it was muskie opener this past weekend for a lot of folks. You could tell the celebration and the long awaited wait for this opener. I saw our good friend Lisa Goodyear. She cracked some champagne. I don't know what I saw that. Yeah, I don't know what other folks, their tradition is. It looks like Lisa has done that before, but anyway, it was cool to see.
Until the next day, they had 11 more bottles in the case to go. Hope she's not listening. Just kidding.
Oh, LJ, it's all in good fun, but I thought it was really cool to see, the uncorking of a champagne bottle to commemorate the opener of muskie. But yeah, Erica, you bring up a good point. Making sure you drink prior to going out in the water. I think that's a good idea.
Once you feel the pounding in your head, you're screwed.
Yeah.
That's when the Gatorade's not going to help you nothing. You know, it'll help, but you're still going to feel crappy for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to just load it in there. And, you know, maybe you have to stop and have a, you know, like a whistle a few times or whatever. You got to do it. You got to do it. But, man, oh man, it's no fun when you get heat stroke. I've had it a few times in my life pretty good.
Wow.
And it's, you know, it was a long time ago. That'll never happen to me again because I know now. And I know how to avoid it, eh? And that's the whole thing. And you got to constantly eat too. And I don't mean you're bringing out 6 hamburgers and fries and 4 pizzas in the boat and just eating all day. But you gotta get some good snack food, apples, and I always bring a little bag of almonds and stuff like that. Tammy will put me together a little Ziploc with a bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark.
I'll tell you this, Jim. I'm going to put you in the awkward seat tonight. I tagged you in a post that our good friends over at Walter's Baits, Stephen, one of the owners of Walter's Baits, he did a little video. And, you know, sometimes we don't understand the size or what it is for some of our CFNers to come on and do either a CFN live or a TNT or what have you. But it means the world to some of them, and probably all of them. But Stephen took the time to do a video, and he said one of the coolest things in his short career in the fishing industry, as he put it, was so cool how he put it, is he said, "I'm not going to lie, I did a post, and I got a thumbs up from Big Jim McLAUGHLIN."
Well, I think that's something that COVID has done. The number, because people have stayed home, maybe had a little more spending money if your income stayed stable. Like I think I told you chatting with you, this is the first time since I met Tammy that I got a refund on my income tax. Like, you know, like we need to get this over quick.
Yeah.
That pile got a little bit smaller in the last few years, but no, I see all these guys out there and they're making jig heads and plastic seems to be the big boom right now. I talked to a couple of guys in the States, and I talked to the guy that works for Do It, and the number of molds that they're selling and the guys that are making private molds. But what I really love is you get guys like, they got a 1/4 ounce jig head, and they all bought their mold from Do It. They all bought their hooks from Eagle Claw or Mustad or whatever. They all get their lead at a scrap yard or whatever. So they all use the same stuff. They make a jig head, and they think it's the best jig head ever made in the world. But everybody's making the same thing, you know. But that's what it's all about. It's because they made it. You know, I remember the first time I made them. It was really cool. I've never delved into plastic. I've never tried plastic or anything to do with it. I go over to Mike Nabulsi's place there once in a while and watch him pouring Shadzillas and the big tubes and things, and it's amazing. And when you see the difference of a guy doing something in his basement, even around here, I've got a few guys that I know. There's Ben here. He has a cottage up here. They call him the Plastisol guy. And there's the lad you mentioned earlier there he's down below me here in Kingston. I talk to him once in a while. Sorry, guys, I forget all the names. People don't realize I spend literally 3 hours a day or more answering questions on Facebook and posting on stuff and that. But so many guys are getting into it. Some of the stuff is really cool, and some of the guys are really going at it big time. Like, I mean, compared to Berkeley or like Z-Man or something, it's still they're still just like local guys. But that's how they all start. There's there's a lot of brands in the States that are that are monsters. I mean, Gary Yamamoto had to start somewhere, and
well, I think that right there is key. They all had to start somewhere. And if there's anything that I said, a lot of these upstarts who have taken their passion for angling and, of course, the products that go with the passion for and pursuit of angling, taking it to the next level and seizing the opportunity that COVID has presented. With the supply chain, as we've talked about at great length, Jim, this is a great opportunity.
Really hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully some of our incredible partners here at CFN have done that, and we're going to do what we can to sort of pump their tires to further their efforts. But I think it's awesome. And like you said, Jim, some folks are making some pretty incredible. And I know you love your beavers. I know you love your
Well, I see guys that are making like that. That's
look
awesome.
at the thickness on that. Like, holy crap!
Yeah. I'm a big fan of anything with lots of pieces wiggling around on it that are loose, you know. But at the same time, you don't need that to catch fish because look at a Senko.
Yeah.
What does a Senko do? Nothing.
Catches fish.
It has a little. Yeah, that's it. You throw it in the water, it gets bit. I mean, that's what it is.
That's it, man. And there's no point trying to explain it. Like
I wish I would have had those when I was a guide.
I can imagine, or even.
Oh, do you think I looked good back then? Make it even better. No, I'm not trying to sound high on my horses, but it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, I know guys that have won tournaments, like decent money. Like, local things, they won $2,500 or something, and they know jack about fishing. They both went out in the boat, threw a Senko up behind the boat, and drifted across the bay. If you ask them why you caught the fish or how or what, we caught them with a Senko. That's the extent of it. It's that kind of a thing. Fish eat those things. But what I really like is I'm seeing a lot of guys out there that are doing the plastic now, and they're getting their own molds made.
Yeah.
Or they're buying, custom molds. They're not just using the same old standard molds. Like there's a lot of beaver molds out there. I noticed that one you just held up there. Whose is that you held up?
That is Madcam Plastics.
Again, that's the guy down below me. Yeah.
Yeah. New upstart company.
Yeah. You notice the way it's got the little balls, but it has the little point on the end.
Yep.
Stuff like that. I don't know. It just seems to me that when you add little wings and flaps like that, it just seems to work better. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, listen, you would know a thing or two about that because I've seen it firsthand. As I said, that's why I knew you would love these because I see you pitching your Archelons and all your other big chunks of plastic that, well, let's face it, they catch fish.
Yeah, I just got Archelons in for the year. I got about 24 bags in there. So I don't fish as much as I used to. So that just keep you going. As a matter of fact, someone said that to me the other day. Do you fish much anymore? I said, no, I'm in the fishing industry.
But here's
they sent me back a sad face.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, Jim. You're right, and Moose and I talked about it on the weekend. If you want to get in the fishing industry, you might want to put the fishing on the shelf because it's a huge commitment, and you have explained that, shown it, illustrated, and prepared us all for that. But what's really cool, do you think, like, if you were to post a fish pic every day of the week for the next 10 years, you'd run out of pics?
Yeah, because you got to remember, we didn't have phones when I was doing most of my fishing.
Right.
Fish pictures are so easy to collect now.
Yeah.
Hey, you would be impressed. This rig figured out just the beginning of how to use iMovies.
Oh, no. We're doomed.
I might have to get a crown. Forget the fishing hat.
Good for you.
And I've ordered a GoPro.
Wow.
But we're gonna take it to another level. I've been talking with a buddy of mine who's really good at that stuff, and he doesn't know it yet. But we're gonna try to make money on YouTube, and I think we can do it.
That's awesome. I
was talking to a guy the other day. He was telling me he works with a pretty big company in the States, not one of the giants, but a good one. And he said to me, Jimmy, he says, we're making more money off our YouTube videos than the company is making.
Wow.
Because they have fantastic, and the company's doing well, but they have some crazy pro staff guys that do stuff for them, and all of a sudden the YouTube thing, they're getting 60, 70,000, whatever. It doesn't, and they're making, we're making good money, money off.
Well, I don't think you're going to have any difficulty doing that, Jim. I mean, as I said, folks come here every Monday to hear the old stories and the old trots down memory lane. You offer up tips even when you don't even know you're offering up tips. So at the end of the day, you are your own walking encyclopedia. It might be missing a few pages in comparison to, say, someone like JP, but it's twice the size. And as I said, with a wealth of time, knowledge, and time on the water, but you got lots to offer any YouTube channel.
So that I did use this because you can see there's line. I cut it right off the rod. Let me get on something dark. You can see the line.
Yeah.
So I was talking to a buddy of mine in the States the other day who has won a couple of $1 million and doesn't work for a chatterbait company, but he uses the chatterbait, a jackhammer. It's what he uses or whatever. And he says to me, he said, I see you post a lot of pictures. You've been catching a lot of fish in your backyard on a chatterbait. I go, yeah. He goes, do you ever think of taking the skirt off the chatterbait? So you'd take the skirt off and fish the chatterbait with just your favorite plastic on the back. So you got your rhythm wave on the back, or if you're a Z-Man guy, your diesel minnow or whatever, Chad, whatever, your Mad Cam bait on the, whatever you want on the back of it, and fish it like that. And he said that they had found that on days when a chatterbait doesn't work, and there's not too many, on days when it's not going well, he said, I've stood in the boat, pulled the plastic off, just ripped the skirt off, throw it in the bottom of the boat, put the plastic back on, started fishing through the same water, and caught fish and done decent. So today I'm sitting here doing some work on the computer because we're working on the summer issue. We've decided to hold it about a week too. We're going to hold it about just into the beginning of July, so we can get the new stuff from iCast, and we're going to do a center spread on it and everything. So it'll be about a week late, but it's no big deal. So I'm sitting watching. I'm watching Major League Fishing's deal, and it's one of their elimination rounds. And it shows this guy fishing down a bank with a chatterbait, and he's catching nothing. And he's in the cut. He's already good. He's happy. All of a sudden, what does the guy do?
Cut the skirt.
Reels his bait in and just rips off a whole bunch of the skirt, throws it down. Makes about 3 more casts, catches a fish, goes about another 50 yards, catches another one. And it just makes you wonder if that's, sometimes they talk about the littlest things making a difference in you getting bit. And it's just really, really cool that I would happen to see that just after having a discussion about it with a pal. It's
interesting.
Really cool.
It makes sense because you look at a spinnerbait, for instance. I mean, I've seen people do that before, taking the skirts off. Well, I'll be honest with you, they fell off because the pike had just basically ripped it off.
Or what they do is they beat it on the water until the skirt comes off to get the weeds off, and they say, "Oh, what a cheap spinnerbait."
But yeah, Steve, to your point, could you do the same thing for a buzzbait? I don't see why not.
The buzzbait deal in the States, putting on a horny toad, like just one of those flat browse with the 2 legs that wiggle.
Yeah, that's
monstrous in the States, like huge, mega. You watch tournaments, guys do that all the time. They don't use skirts anymore. It's just really, really cool to see some of the things the way. I don't think there's a lot left to invent. You've heard me say that before. There's stuff out there, but it just seems to be little twists and things that work. So this is exactly what this is. No skirt on the buzzbait. Put a horny toad on. You got the 2 legs flopping at the back, plus the blade string. It's lots of action up there.
Yeah,
lots of action.
Well, it's interesting. And every time as a seasoned angler as yourself, I'm nowhere near your caliber. I doubt I ever will be. But when you hear stuff or you see stuff, and I'm sure it happens a lot more often to you than it does to me. But I saw a post that was on Facebook about Ned rigging for walleye, and it seemed like like the new craze. Well, I didn't know that it was new. I just figured everybody used it for walleye.
You've heard me say this a million times too. If I had a box with all the 5-inch grubs that I threw out with the tail bitten off, which became an Ed rig then, like who would have ever thought, though, we talked about wacky worms, who would have ever thought that taking a hook and a worm and hooking it in the middle and throwing it in the river and you catch a fish? It would have been...
Okay, and then not only that, but made millions, and those who also used it in tournaments made millions. Yeah, I would have said you've been sipping a little bit too much Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Speaking of Kool-Aid.
Attaboy. So, Jim, you touched on just
no Kool-Aid there.
Well, I'm not here to judge. I don't care. You can color it whatever way you want. It's your brew, your brand. It puts a smile on your face. That's all that matters. So upcoming this week, obviously talking about just fishing. You're still putting the summer issue together. Anything else that you're working on?
Well, I've been making a lot of stuff, and I spent most of my time doing that, trying to get caught up on a bunch of things because I'm basically kind of caught up on jigs now. At last, I went the other day to the post office and put, I think it was 6 or 7 envelopes in with like just odd things, and I have a few things to make for some guys from the CFN here still. I'll get to it eventually, but it's just when you get the bread and butter taken care of is when you do all the little pieces, right? So it's there's no end to it, but before we know it, hopefully they get my boat rigged. It's been here since last fall. The marina has been so busy. They put 2 brand new bass cats out this week. And I mean fully rigged, like the two power poles, the whole deal, just totally rigged for tournament fishing. Probably $10,000 worth of electronics on them.
And God bless everybody that has that kind of money to spend on these rigs. It's good for the economy. It's good for our mom and pa marinas that have all been taking a hit because no one's been able to come into the shop to do that, to spend money. But that's awesome.
Well, I think that in the next month here, you're going to see things start to go. I agree. I mean, I think obviously the vaccinations are catching up now. Yeah. And I think that's, I was looking, Israel today only had 14 new cases, the whole country. So
that's
when
awesome.
You got numbers like that, even Japan's down, they were only 2,000. I was really worried about that with the Olympics coming.
Yeah.
Putting a lot of people in there and then they go back out. But, I guess, 2,000 with all the people they have there. And I mean, ours is way down. Ours is way down today. What does Ontario have? 500 and something?
Yeah, we're going in the right direction.
Quebec was 2 something, so it's on the way down. We need to keep it there. And I was happy to see we're going to get a little bit of slack on Friday.
Yes, absolutely. So on that note, Jim, is there with the weather that's coming? Because obviously there's a bit of a cold front. We're going to get some thunder here in Ontario. I believe that's still hot out west, but they're probably doing the topsy-turvy weather as well. Can you give our CFN FishOFF all of the some advice on some things to hone in on, key in on this time of year when you've got hot?
Yeah, I still, there's so many ifs, ands, ors, or buts there because of what you're fishing and where you are. Now, number one thing, and it's not intended to be a joke. Go fishing whenever you can. Go fishing whenever you can. Like I always have people say to me, in the summertime we go out in the morning and fish always bite in the morning. I said, well, fish don't always bite in the morning. Watch some of the live tournament things. The best fishermen on the planet are pulling out their hair at 11 o'clock because they didn't catch fish in the morning. But the number of fish that I've caught in the middle of the day in the tournament is a scary number. So don't stop fishing. There's something to it. You just got to get out there and do it. And same old thing. If it ain't working, don't do it. Start doing something new. Start doing something new.
I'm pretty sure there's a shirt somewhere with that catchphrase.
I'm looking at it from here. It's right there, hanging in the office.
Right on. Well, listen, Jim, thanks as always, my friend, for joining us each and every Monday.
Sure.
You stay cool, stay classy, and we'll see you back here next Monday, my friend.
Everybody be safe out there and enjoy themselves.
Right on, Bob.
Drink some water.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As always a treat and a pleasure to speak with the one and only Big Jim McLAUGHLIN, who always offers up some really cool tips that perhaps, as you just said, Mark, aha moments that, all of a sudden you'll sort of trip on it as it's hitting social media. Well, try this new thing. Oh, well, I just used that this past weekend. So it is kind of cool when that kind of stuff happens. But needless to say, there's a history of stuff that Jim has stumbled on that we're hopefully going to get to before his YouTube channel becomes too successful and he forgets who we are. Just kidding. Up next, Lawrence Gunther. Here's a word from our sponsor.
Honoring past achievements as we step into the future. Elevate, innovate, reimagine. Make the best better. That's what we do. Radically redefined, the NRX Plus is the culmination of our obsessive drive to forge the most advanced fishing tools on the planet.
How you doing, Lawrence?
Right. Someday I'll have one of those
Great.
NRXs.
I say the same thing all the time, and to me, I'm kind of a bull in a china shop. I don't know if I want something that nice. I'd almost be afraid to use it.
I know I've got a few rods. They're not NRXs, but there's a few rods I don't bring out in anybody else's boat except mine, and only my big boat, not my little boat either, right? Because you go in a truck with someone and you go in their boat and you don't know how they handle their gear or your gear. Next thing you know, they're handling your stuff, packing it up and taking it out for you. They think you're doing their favor, and you realize, oh my God, don't hold the rods by the tips,
It is, and you feel bad, especially when you do something that you didn't want to do, but stuff happens. I think we've all been in the boat and on the water when stuff does happen, and it's like a steel brush up your backside. It doesn't feel good when it happens. You hear that snap. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But you snap an NRX, I don't know. That's a lot of. A lot of
clams,
choice words and a whole bunch of stuff we can't say here on CFN.
Yeah.
Now, Lawrence, you've been busy. I know, Lake to Plate and a whole bunch of other things that have been posted on your YouTube channel as well as the podcast. Tell us what you've been up to.
Well, tomorrow is World Ocean Day. So today in the Bluefish Canada News, and it's hot on the, there's a link there now. You can go to bluefishcanada.ca and get the June 7th issue of the Bluefish Canada News. And I'll just tell you quickly what's in there a little bit, but we can talk about this. But it's World Ocean Day, Scotty, tomorrow. So it got me thinking about, the world ocean. Technically there's 4 big oceans, right? The Atlantic, the Arctic, the Pacific, and the Indian. And then, you have all these seas and there's all these names for all these different parts. But it got me thinking, I said, you know what? It's a cartographer's sort of dream to get a map of the earth and start to draw lines here and lines there and put names on this and names on that. And it helps, when you're trying to figure out where you are and where you need to go, and you're telling people and you're talking to people, and it makes it look a lot doable. But it got me thinking about my own experience with, paddling the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence River and out into the Gaspé and down the New Brunswick coastline and over to PEI years ago with the Georgetown Ventures. And to me, it was just like one big canoe trip. I never crossed any borders, any lines, any boundaries. There was no distinct, okay, you're leaving the lake, now you're in the river kind of moment. It just was a continual flow and everything just changed. And what you realize along the way is the fish and the animals in the water, man, they just move up and down and they don't pay any attention to those barriers or boundaries or delineations on the map. They're just moving around. It's just one continuous ecosystem. And it's kind of hard to think of it that way. You got to get rid of all that teaching, all that geographic, instruction, all that map reading, and just think about it. But I think as anglers, Scotty, we appreciate that. We appreciate, a lake system that's fed by a river and goes over into a dam and below the dam and what comes after that. We can all picture those water systems in our head. And we know that it's just a continuous system, call it what you want, name it what you want, but there's just these continuous systems and the animals, if it wasn't for the odd dam or something, they just move around. Yeah.
And I'm constantly reminded of how, our CFNers are a tad bit different than the rest of the community. Not all of the community, but a tad bit different than the rest of the community in the sense that you talk about that appreciation. Nothing's taken for granted. You know, you see folks when it comes to how they're protecting the fish, how they're handling the fish, you know, expressing and illustrating and exposing all of us CFNs and CFNers in our community to their full experience, whether it be on the riverside, whether someone's taking a nap, singing a song, having a dance, you know, what have you. It truly is the whole experience. And you know what? I have to salute all our CFNers, especially in this first weekend of the CFN Fish Off. Man alive. The excitement, the joy, and the appreciation of the fishery was on full display. So big shout out to all you participants, man. I tell you, God love you for what you did this past weekend.
They're home on their home waters, trying out some new waters, following some paths. You know what's around that corner, what's behind that island, what's over in that next lake, expanding their cognitive maps of their systems, right, of their water bodies, and adding new boundaries to that, just expanding their cognitive maps in their minds, and adding as they explore and extend their reach further and further. It's a beautiful feeling.
It really is. And with, you know, of course, it's what is it? Ocean Day, you said?
World Ocean Day. Tomorrow.
World Ocean Day. So with World Ocean Day before us, what are some things that we as CFNers can think about? Because perhaps maybe we're nowhere near an ocean. Maybe we're stuck right dab in the middle of Canada, and we're you know, our shores don't border an ocean per se. They border a lake. What can we do in that case when it comes to helping contribute to the cleaning, the maintaining of that resource?
Well, you think about the Great Lakes, right? And what we flush in our toilet, you know, down our sinks, goes into the rivers that flow into the Great Lakes, that flow down the St. Lawrence and into the Atlantic, and intercepts, you know, 17 species of whales that live in the lower St. Lawrence River, you know, from Quebec City on down to the Gulf. You know, some of those beluga whales, they were so toxic at one point in the 1980s because of what was coming down the river. When they would die, their bodies were considered toxic waste and had to be handled with people in hazmat suits. You know, they were that dangerous to handle because of the chemicals they biomassed. It's not as bad now. Like, we cleaned up a lot since the 1980s, but there's more things coming. There's more things coming. We got to think about all these PFAS chemicals now, these new forever chemicals, you know, the Scotch Guards and the Teflons and the fire retardants. These things don't break down for a reason, because they're Scotch Guard and fire retardants and Teflons, right? They're meant to last and take a beating and many washes. And so they get into the ecosystem through manufacturing or just from wear and tear. And that just flows down and doesn't disappear. So, you know, our choices, all our choices, everything we do flows downstream, and it all heads out east, right? All heads into the Atlantic, and it's intercepted along the way.
And you know what? That's perfect. And I'll take it one step further. You know, you have that cognitive thought. You know, when you unwrap something, and you're presented with waste plastic, and you know, maybe when we were young, we didn't think about it all that much. Perhaps, you know, we make mistakes from time to time. The wind blows it away, whatever. But if you really stop to think, and not to say necessarily that putting it in a garbage bag or a public garbage can is the correct solution, but it's a heck of a lot better than just letting it free fly into the air and not be controlled. Because at the end of the day, you hear about these plastic islands out in the oceans, what they're doing to the fish, how they're growing in size. So, you know, and sometimes we can't do the large stuff. We can't take on the large stuff, like, you know, tearing down our Rocky Mountains for coal. We can't necessarily have an immediate impact, but we could do the little things, as Jim says all the time. Just do the little things. Yeah, that little piece of garbage, whether it be something off a Tim Hortons cup or something from McDonald's or anything else, but you rip a piece of plastic off, just throw it in a waste paper can. It's really it's straightforward stuff. I know you've been hearing it since you were a kid, but it's those little things. If we do our part, hopefully we can make it a better place.
Oh, the worst beach I was ever on was in Los Angeles. It's called Long Beach, and it was just a flow. I mean, there's sharks. They're little baby sharks. It was around the that time of the year, and little baby sharks, like 2-3 feet offshore, and 6 inches to a foot of water, like these little 12-inch sharks, these babies. But then along the shoreline, up on the beach, is just filth, garbage and garbage and garbage. It's just so atrocious, man. And you think, wow, that's all just flying off boats, people just flipping it off their boats, throwing it off their sailboats and their yachts and or whatever boat they're on, not caring. And but I got two stories a little closer to home, man. I'll share with you that bring this a little bit home. The first story is on the west coast of Canada. And it turns out we found some more DFO documentation that was released. Yeah. Yeah. And we were bringing in Atlantic salmon hatchery fish to grow in our hatcheries, or not our hatcheries, but on our aquaculture fish pens on the west coast. So we were bringing them in from Norway, right? That's where the hell over on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
We were bringing in this virus with them. And now this virus has infected a lot of all the pen fish on the west coast of Canada, all those aquaculture fish. Now, it doesn't make them unedible. They have the virus. It definitely affects the fish. They'll never grow up and live a long life, but that's, they don't need to. They just have to get to a certain size so they can be harvested. And we can eat them without catching this virus. So CFIA tells us, Canadian Food Inspection Agency. But this virus now has infected all the wild salmon on the west coast of Canada to a large degree. Not all of them, but it is infecting the ones. And a lot of salmon that pass by these aquaculture operations to get into their rivers to go spawn, pick up the virus. And when the fish come back down, the smolts come back down those rivers, and they pass by these aquaculture operations, they pick up the virus. So now the virus is being passed into the wild stocks. Now there's an example of, a mistake, a bad idea, a lack of caring, greed. Well, I don't know. What do you call that? But it happened, man. And again, a virus on one end of the Atlantic Ocean got put into the Pacific Ocean, and it's causing havoc here right on our west coast.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's a lot of it is greed. And sometimes, even though you are informed, as we're finding out as more and more leaflets and documents start emerging from DFO, wherever it is that they're emerging from, we are starting to know that even with logic, science, but in front of you, sometimes it is forgotten, dismissed for the sake of greed. So, yeah, it's upsetting.
Yeah, it is upsetting. And here's another story. And this story I captured. Well, I just had a guy tell the story. His name's Jamie Howard. He owns Howard Films. He's been making fish films for 20 years, like quality film. So he just spent the last 5 years filming striped bass on the east coast of North America, right? Yeah. So it's a spring in Chesapeake Bay. And then they come out and they're along North Carolina in the summer, and that's the third episode. And then the fall episode, they're up and around New York State and up that way and up into Maine and even up into Canada, right? These striped bass, they get around, man. There's another whole story right there. Like, these fish live up in the Chesapeake Bay and go up the rivers that feed into the Chesapeake Bay and into the freshwater river systems in winter in there and have their babies in there. And then they come out and then they go into the Chesapeake Bay, which is huge. And then they come out into the Atlantic Ocean and they swim all the way up the coast of North America to Canada. And people just, it's like a calendar. It's like Christmas. People mark it on their calendar. They're coming. Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming. And you'll see thousands of anglers lined up on the shore, to greet them, right? And to catch them and put them back or keep them and harvest them. I mean, these are fish that have been native species. It's been a native species for forever, right? They've been there, and it's a main part of the ecosystem. But this guy, Jamie Howard, he filmed all this over 5 years, and then he realized as he was filming it, he kept going back and filming again and again. And the anglers are telling him, he said, Jamie, something's happening to the striped bass. The numbers are going down. The numbers are going down. And now you got NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and their whole marine fisheries division looking into the Chesapeake Bay striped bass situation. What's going on? they're asking questions. You got anglers saying, you know what, we need to develop new rules. We need to release anything over 80 centimeters. We can't keep the big ones. We need to bring this population back. And the care these anglers are showing up and down the East Coast of North America, the care and the passion and the grief and the fear of losing these fish, these iconic fish, that part of their life for generations. They are really upset about this, and they'll do anything. Some of them are saying, look, maybe we should just stop fishing for 10 years, because it normally takes about 10 years to bring a fish stock back, right? For the young ones to grow up and reach breeding age, and for them to have, fry, and for them to grow up and build up the numbers. The whole, these cycles to the point where you get a good, healthy stock again can take 10 years at least, minimum. So some are saying, let's just give it a break for 10 years. But, there's other ways we know how to do that now. We just limit our harvesting, make sure the big ones go back, keep a small one, maybe reduce the numbers of small ones, maybe not fish for them during spawning season, all sorts of little adjustments they can make to turn this around. But I think it's a really important lesson, because we have striped bass that come out of Miramichi and New Brunswick and that are resident of Canada. And then they come out of those rivers in the spring and they hang around the coast for a while, and you can catch them in May and June along the coast. And then July and August, they're off, frolicking in the ocean and doing their thing in the ocean. They're gone again until the next fall when they come back into the river. These fish just get around. But we have a very similar situation with our own striped bass here in Canada on the East Coast, that we need to take a lesson of what happened in the United States with their striped bass, and take a lesson from that, not take these fish for granted. I know, Jeff and all the team out there with the Striper Cup on the East Coast, man, they would give their left arm to protect these fish. Absolutely. They would sell their brothers to protect these fish.
It's so true. And it's funny that, Christmas Eve, even as a kid, we would sit around and we'd listen to the news, and they'd have the Santa tracker that would be going across the screen. Well, he's in such and such country now. And they literally track the migration of these striped bass on satellite. And it's daily updated. My good friend Hugo updates it regularly, where they are, where they're heading next, what the currents are, what to expect. The next wave or movement's going to be. They literally track these schools of fish, like you mentioned, like we track Santa on Christmas Eve. It is kind of cool.
And we have scientists now, they're saying, hey, our striped bass, our Canadian striped bass populations are pushing north, right? Like onto the north shore of the Gulf of St. Lawrence and into Labrador, Quebec, into that territory. Now, they had a bit of bad luck because the winters can be pretty hard on them up there. And they had a few nasty surprises, lost a lot of their numbers. But, climate change, temperatures are warming, oceans are warming. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but it is a thing that's happening. And for sure, these bass are going to keep pushing north. For sure, they're going to keep pushing north, and they're going to become an even bigger part of who we are as Canadians, right? We're going to have these striped bass, along the east coast of Canada that are going to go much further north, and maybe into Newfoundland, and maybe they'll be the next quote unquote Atlantic salmon, right? Because that's not going well. And I'll give you one last story about that. There's a big committee with Canada, the United States, the UK, Denmark, a few other countries. Now, Denmark represents Greenland, because to Denmark, they still own Greenland.
Right.
And all the Atlantic salmon from North America, they head up towards Greenland in the summer, and they all just hang around there and eat and get fat and enjoy each other's company. And that the problem is the commercial Greenland fishery goes out and catches them, right? And they're our fish. They're Canadian fish. They're American fish. They're not Greenland fish. They're just visiting. They're just tourists. But, according to Greenland, hey, they're in our territory. They're in our 200-mile economic zone. So we're going to catch them and make a bunch of money off this. Even if these fish never go into our rivers, never spawn in our rivers, they're in our economic zone. So they're ours. Now, they've just had a meeting, and they said, look, to the Greenland, to Denmark, said, stop catching so many of our damn Atlantic salmon. You're screwing up our rebuilding. You know, we're busting butts down here to rebuild habitat for Atlantic salmon, to remove dams, to, you know, to kill off smallmouth bass with poisons, so the you know, they don't eat the smolts, and on and on. And then you got this commercial fishery up in Greenland that's just hammering them. And well, we lost the fight, and I don't know if we fought hard enough. You know, in the end, it's a consensus, and no one voted against the consensus, because there has to be a consensus for the agreement to be reached, and they don't want to walk away from the table without an agreement because it just looks bad. So they reached a consensus for one more year of unsustainable Atlantic salmon harvesting in Greenland. Now, we can put some pressure on them, and I think Atlantic Salmon Federation and NOAA, and I think Canada, I think there's going to be some building pressure. But as a angling organization, CFN, Bluefish Canada, we can absolutely add to that pressure as well, and we should.
Well, we are, and we do it on a weekly basis through education. At the end of the day, you know, it's this is all part of the practice of what we do each Monday. It's great to see our community, but it's also important to educate them on what's going on around us. And as Cliff has mentioned, and has been an integral part of where we stood with Chinook salmon out on the West Coast, and involving them in the CFN FishOFF, it's allowing, you know, this think tank to come together every once in a while to bounce ideas. I don't necessarily know what's going on the West Coast. I certainly don't know what's going on the East Coast without, you know, some of your input, and of course the input of CFNers of what's actually happening. We just wouldn't know, and that's so important to the whole education process, because how can we exercise our opinions and our rights if we aren't properly educated? Because there's all kinds of that going on in society.
I agree, man. I agree. You know, look, 3.5 million Canadians buy a fishing license every year. That's a lot of votes.
Amen.
And if we get organized and we can say, hey, you know what, we're not happy with this, you know, hello, Mr. Politician, planning on running again in the next election? We think maybe you might want to think about this. What do you think about this? Would you make this, you know, would you support this? You know, because we might be able to help you get some votes if you do, kind of thing, right? Because that's how decisions are made. The politicians have to think, well, there's a lot of people who believe this, and maybe I should as well, because that's their job, is to represent us, not their own views, not their own opinions, the opinions and the views of the public, which is us.
Absolutely. 100%. On your Feel the Bite segment, have you got anything for us? I'm sure. Look, I could tell by the grin you do.
It made me think about surf fishing, right? I love surf fishing. You know, nothing. You know, when you go down to North Carolina for Thanksgiving, right? You can take that long weekend, and it's not that far. But you go down there and it's still nice. It's 80 degrees. The ocean's 75 degrees. And I was down there years ago. I go down quite a bit. There's this one blind fishing tournament. It's an international. There's 500 blind people that show up for this thing. And they asked me to come down, give some keynote speeches once in a while. They give me a hotel room in exchange. And I'll do that. No problem. I love it, man. I love, you know, all this fishing activity on the piers and the head boats and everything. It's just so much fun. But I also like just to go surf fishing, and I bring my 12-foot carp rods, and I just go out there. And I remember there was a course being offered by two experienced surf fishers down there, and I called up and I said, hey, I'd like to take your course, but I'm totally blind. And they got back to me and said, Lawrence, you know, we can't babysit you, man. There's rogue waves, and once in a while these big waves come, and if you get swept away and no one's watching and you don't see that wave coming and you don't run when you see that wave coming, we're in trouble. Your wife's going to give us crap. So I said, no, fair enough, guys, fair enough. So I just go fishing with my wife.
Wow.
It's the kids, and they watch, you know, they're on the beach doing their thing, and I set up, and, you know, there's so much space. You know, there's another angler 200 yards down, and we all spread out 200 yards along the beach. But I just want to say that this is the most zen type of fishing you'll ever experience in your life, because you think about the waves, right? And the waves, and they come in, and how often do they come straight into shore where it's just a boom?
Yeah.
Boom. Never. It's more of a whoosh as they roll along, right? Because they're coming in on an angle. So you listen to that angle. in my mind, I stand there, in the water, and I listen to the waves and the movement of the waves. And if you don't cast straight into the waves, what happens is the waves will grab your fishing line, because now they're hitting the side of your fishing line, even on a small angle, 10, 15 degrees. And every time they hit the side of your fishing line, they pick up your bait and they move it over 10 feet. So next thing you know, 10, 15, 20 minutes go by and your bait is, 100 feet down the shore, 10 feet off the shoreline. So you've got to just really spear it straight into the waves. Lift your rod tip nice and high to clear the breakers, and you aim for the dark areas. The dark areas are the zones between the sandbanks, because you got this. If you ever walk out of sandbanks or whatever in any ocean, it's shallow, then it gets deep, then it's shallow again, and it gets deep. So you want to land it in that deep trench, because the fish move up and down those trenches, paralleling the shoreline, hunting, and that's where you want to plant your bait. So it's you listen to the waves. You drive straight into there. You get a good idea where those dark zones are. I just have my wife says, okay, how far? And she goes, I said, watch this. And she goes, and if I don't get it right, she said, no, you were too far. You're too close. I'll do it again. Get my bait out there, and then I'm good to go. But it's just amazing. Then you feel it. You feel that hit. And those fish, man, those ocean fish, they're amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's true. And they fight. I mean, some would argue that a smallmouth still puts up a heck of a fight pound for pound, but saltwater fish, let's face it, they have a lot bigger muskies and top predators chasing after them. That they got to be good. They got to be on their game. So 100%.
There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide.
There's nowhere to hide in that trench. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on, Lawrence. What have you got upcoming this week? Who are you talking to? What's going on with your podcasts?
So I'll just let you know, if you check out this interview with Jamie Howard, there's a link to it in the Bluefish News. So if you want to check out that Bluefish News, there's also an article, an editorial. In every issue of the Bluefish News, I write an editorial. So if you want to read it, I'm getting a lot of good feedback already on this one, and I do, but it's worth, if you got 5-10 minutes to read a 1,500 word article, you got nothing else to do for 10 minutes, pick it up. And I put a lot of effort into these, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's I always try to make them informational and enjoyable, and a bit of a stroll and some insights and some information. So check that out. Check out the interview with Jamie Howard, this movie producer, and if you want to buy his thing, there's some links there. There's $20 for all 3 episodes. You own them for life. And there's another podcast I did with Ellen Kelsey, and she's doing a 5-part podcast called it's all about ocean sounds, and it's from Hackeye Magazine. If you want to get that podcast, go to Hackeye Magazine, and it's called Sound Aquatic Podcast. And she talks to all these people that have spent their whole careers exploring the sounds of the oceans and animals that live just based on what they hear and how they talk to each other and communicate and avoid danger by listening. You think about it, right? When the sun goes down, they got nothing to light up their ocean with, right? Or lake or river. They have to live in the dark. And if the water gets murky, or if the sky clouds over, the light levels drop off pretty quick. So fish, I think, live their life legally blind a lot of the time, right? Not maybe totally blind, sometimes totally blind, a lot of times legally blind. Not often can they exercise their best vision. A lot of times I think they're like me, they depend more on what they hear. And Ellen Kelsey and I really get into this a bit, and that's a great little podcast series. So there's lots of things there to check out in the Bluefish News, you guys.
That's awesome, dude. Wow. That's really cool. And of course, as our vision disabled angler who comes on every Monday, and you never know it. Honestly, the stuff that you do, the content that you produce, things that we hear you do, and there doesn't seem to be anything that really holds you back. You're a true inspiration as always, buddy, and we are glad to have you each Monday discussing what's going on in the news of fishing, the news of water, and the world of where we live and how we can make it a better place. So thanks so much, Lawrence, and keep up the great work. We'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, Scotty, and thanks everyone for giving me your time. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, you guys.
Right on, bud. You take care. Stay classy. All right. Before we bring on Jay, here is a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
As I say, you can do a show though.
J-Dog, what's up, brother?
What's happening, man?
I tell you, lots is happening. And you've been out fishing for the CFN FishOFF, and you've just upped your son's game a bit with the purchase or the newly purchased.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I gotta tell a good story. So I'll share it with all you guys out there. So a friend of ours in London area who, you know, I tried to teach Trevor how important it is to make good relationships in the fishing industry, you know, with other anglers. And there's a gentleman from London who will remain nameless, but him and I communicate regularly. I've never actually fished with this gentleman, but he frequents waterways around here, and he's new to steelheading, for example. So last winter, I was always sharing information with him, and I don't expect anything in return. I don't. I'm happy to share information with these anglers that reach out to me. If I can help them catch more fish, I'm happy with that. Anyways, this gentleman bought a kayak last year, and I took it out recently, and he flipped it. And he's a big guy like me, and he said, I don't want the kayak anymore. And he kind of put a little, you know what, this individual's a great human being who wears his heart in the sleeve, and he kind of told it like it is. I don't want this thing, get rid of it. So Trevor's been saving up for a kayak, and so I messaged the angler, and I said, hey, one, are you okay? Like, you know, that's a rough thing to go through. He's like, yeah. I said, are you serious about selling it? He says, yeah. And I asked, okay, well, I was straight up. Trevor's been cutting lawns, saving up his money, trying to buy a kayak. We weren't going to buy one till next year because you can't find a kayak right now. Like it's really hard to find a kayak. And I explained my story to him, and he said, I'll sell it to your son. And I said, now the price he gave me, he could have got more for it. He's like, I'm just happy to make my money back on what I put into it. So we picked it up tonight. So come here. So awesome. This is the proud new owner of a new Old Town Pedal 132. So
is that you already in it on the show?
No, this is the one at my cottage.
So you know,
holy crap, man!
You know, grandmothers kind of make unique presents for their grandkids.
Yeah.
So this is at the cottage that we go to, and they have a Predator 132, but not the pedal drive. So that's a picture of Trevor from 2 years ago. His Grammy Bev's on the call sometimes. She made this great shirt for him. He happened to be wearing that shirt today when I brought the kayak home, and he didn't know it was going to be here. So, and I have to tell the last part of the story is that we were trying to surprise Trevor with it, but Stephanie was like, what's in the backyard? Why is there a kayak in the backyard? Because Trevor ain't going to see a kayak because everything he's oblivious to most things. But little sisters notice everything. So anyway, so it's done. Done deal.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I owned a Honda Civic, I had the same epiphany. Didn't fit in it anymore, and I just said, anybody who wants it can have it. So I totally understand where that gentleman, where his head was at.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. And Trevor was able to benefit from it.
Yeah, it's great. So so he's already been, well, he's strategizing for the FishOFF. He's actually over here rigging up baits right now. He doesn't want to show on camera what he's doing because he's up to something. I'll check in with him later. But yeah, so we went out fishing for the weekend though. It was hot, dude. I think I'm still hydrating.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, it was again today. You know, we've managed to consider summer, and it's nice. I'm sure everybody's enjoying it, even if it is a little bit uncomfortable, because let's face it, it's been, as Terry out in Alberta always says, topsy-turvy weather. So it's nice to have that warmth, and it's been well received and long overdue.
Yeah, like we went out for the weekend. Now the weekend was pretty windy. We planned on going out to the lake originally, but that wasn't going to happen. So we went and fished some rivers this weekend. Didn't do too well on Saturday. Spent time with the Raytrowskis, which was good on Saturday, but we had a slow day of fishing. Hadn't seen them for a long time. But it's great to catch up with them, of course, as it always is. And we're looking forward to planning our next trip. Sunday, I said, Trevor, let's go and try and catch some red horse for the fish off. And so many of our spots, Scotty, were full of people, and not anglers, kayakers, swimmers. Like everybody was in the water on Sunday. Everywhere we went, we fished the Grand River. Basically, I'm gonna say watershed because, dude, we covered ground, and just to find a place to get in where there wasn't a crowd of people. It's not a COVID thing. I just don't want to fish among 40 other people. But anyways, we got 2 species on Sunday. 2 species I didn't expect to get right away. Golden red horse and a greater red horse. So thanks for the judges for confirming those. So those are kind of 2 outliers that are they're 4 points each right now. So we're hoping they'll stay high for us. But yeah, we're planning to hit some local waters this week after school and get those species counts up. We're all over the score sheet, man. It's great to see so many species coming in. It's awesome. It's inspiring and motivating to get back out there.
It is, and we're lucky that we got as many entries as we saw this past weekend. I was expecting more, to be honest with you, with the level of excitement that was sort of leading up to the start of it. But needless to say, our participants did not. I tell you, they didn't let us down by any means, and it was just so cool to see a variety of species. Lots of folks, with their partners, with their families, doing their thing and having a grand old time, because at the end of the day, the smiles is what makes it all worthwhile. Seeing folks excited about catching a sucker, catching a catfish that perhaps maybe they've never caught before. That's what it's all about. That's what the CFN Fish Off does. It makes you excited about other species.
I have to tell you, I'm going to give Trevor credit for this one. So I put up the picture of the greater red horse that Trevor was holding. He didn't catch that fish. I did. But there's a reason why I wanted a picture with him with that fish, because he spotted those fish feeding on a flat down from where we were fishing. He tried to get them, but they were really spooky. And when I went to cast for those red horse, he coached me on where they were because I was hiding in the grass. I'm not even joking because they were so spooky. He was coaching Dad to get me to get one on. I hooked it. He jumped in the creek and landed it with the net. So Trevor went from player to coach, man. It was great to see.
Oh, wow. Yep. Dude, buddy, that's a proud papa moment right there.
Yeah, dude, it was. He jumped right in. He knew that it was a 25-inch greater red horse and our little landing net. It fits, but he knows head first. Don't touch the line. Get in there. Yeah, he did a great job, and he fully coached me on that fish because I couldn't quite see where that fish was. Because once you're down at water level, you got all that glare, even with my glasses. He was up on the bank being like, hey, Dad, see that little patch of grass over there? Just cast right. Okay, he's coming up to it. He's got it. Okay, Dad, set the hook. And I set the hook, and there he was. He was on.
No way.
Walked me through the whole thing. It was great. Good team effort.
That is incredible. Now, speaking of incredible, flathead catfish. We had one of them entered. What are the chances of us seeing? Is that a rare breed of catfish, or?
It is. Flathead catfish are fairly common in the U.S. They're a bit of a nasty species. They're invading other water bodies in the U.S. And when you get a top predator like a flathead move into some water bodies, it can really throw off the ecology a little bit. I don't think they'll become like super abundant in Ontario, but they are moving in. There's a couple populations in Ohio. So in the western basin of Lake Erie, in the Maumee River area, the big walleye run in the Maumee River.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So there are flatheads there, and the flatheads are spreading. And there's been a few records periodically with the Royal Ontario Museum that commercial anglers have caught in Lake Huron, like southern Lake Huron, western basin of Lake Erie. And then the last 5 years, and I've shared this before on Facebook and other places, there's a breeding population now in the Thames River. They're still pretty rare, but there's a breeding population in the Thames now. And, you know, it's great this year with the fish-off rule of it can be invasive if it can be caught if it's been established. So it's, you know, we have scientific data that documents it's an established species in Canada. Yes, it's a small population. So seeing a flathead weighed in was great. I'm going to reach out to the judges. I'm competing in the competition, but I'd like to know roughly where the fish was caught. I'm not going to go to that spot, but I have a professional interest in knowing where it was caught just to track that information. So that's pretty cool. But I probably won't follow up with those anglers till after the competition is done. Just, you know, I would feel better about it after the competition.
Totally understand. And I would say probably Kenneth, who's on here tonight, will probably get in touch with you to let you know where that was. But yeah, it certainly caught our judges off guard. Mike, when he texted me, I'm like, that's almost impossible, dude. Where? Like that's unheard of. So
well, and if you listen to the video, they were throwing crankbaits for walleye in the dark, like the one video. So, and it's not surprising. They're a nocturnal animal. Flatheads are very nocturnal, and they're aggressive predators. For them to grab a crankbait, it's not surprising to me at all. So,
well, it kind of just said we don't know where it was caught, but definitely would be of academic interest. Absolutely. But they're going to find out. They're going to work with the anglers that caught it, and hopefully we can find out after the competition.
Absolutely, yes. Any of those kinds of records, you know, I'll reach out to Ken after the competition's over with, and if there's anything unique like that, I'll follow up with Ken for sure. Because that's what's great about this competition is there's so many anglers out there on the water fishing in all these places. You know, 200. What are we at? 218 teams. So
we're over 225.
Oh geez. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Trevor will have a tough time sleeping because he's feeling the competition. He's feeling. I keep telling him to relax, Trevor. We're not even out of the first 5 minutes of the game yet. Here, we still got 2 more periods after this one. So lots of time.
And that's great that you bring that up, because I think everybody thinks that if they don't have a insurmountable lead after the first week, that they're out of the competition. And we've made it so that no one is out of the competition, especially when it comes to catching prizes. And Mike and I will talk a lot more about that tomorrow. But no, you don't have to, run out of the gates like a racehorse. Slow and steady wins this race. But as long as you're focusing on species and not necessarily just catching really big fish, that's the name of the game. It's all about the species. And when the open week, opens up, that is your last hurrah. If it's a shot out of a cannon type situation, metaphorically, the last week, the 4th week is that week, because everything that you have sort of geared yourself towards catching certain species leads up to what have I not caught? What upgrades can I do at this point? So I think pacing yourself is very, very key, because that 4th week, man, I tell you, it's like getting shot out of a cannon. And we get just as many entries in the last week as we do in the first 2 weeks.
Well, and what's exciting too is actually networking with the otother anglers, looking for information. Some anglers in the chat are asking about how we caught the suckers. Night crawlers, but the water is so low, Scotty. Like we're at summertime lows right now. It's really, I'd say most of the fishing we've been doing for suckers has been pretty much a weightless night crawler. Like we're actually casting them on braided line with a monofilament leader, because we need the braid to help with the distance, because mono is too coily. But the water is so slow, and also we don't want to spook them, so we want that worm just to settle in front of them and have them swim over and pick it up. That's how, and that wasn't just this weekend. That's how we've been targeting them this spring. Usually for suckers, I'll use a bottom rig with like an egg sinker and a worm, but right now the flows are just that way, and the water is so clear. And they're very spooky. Suckers are always scared of eagles and ospreys and herons and us on the bank. So they're skittish. You gotta, especially for the bigger ones, for sure.
Absolutely. And Alicia says you have to be subtle, 100%.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do have to bring up some bad news, as I showed you just before. And the CFN Fish Off is a wondrous thing, and I'm so glad that you, Trevor, and the rest of your family are involved. But unfortunately, we still have this kind of nonsense going on in our world. And not that I want to get into the details of it or try to explain it or get into the head of someone who does something like this. We all have our varying opinions of what this represents and what this is. To me, it's a tearjerker when you hear the waste of a fish like walleye that is trying to really reestablish itself in the Muskoka River, and it's done wonderful doing so. But when you hear this kind of stuff going on, unfortunately, I don't know. It doesn't do anything for the maintenance of the fishery. But irregardless, why we're talking about it is I think Jay BARNUCZ is probably the best person to give us some insight that if you are in a situation where you're seeing somebody doing something illegal, whether they're poaching, whether they're taking too much fish, whether they're fishing on private property that they're not supposed to, how do we deal with that as anglers without getting ourselves in a situation that would be combative, possibly harmful to ourselves? Or can we be discreet when we report these kind of incidents that are going on, Jay?
So the best, okay, so, I'm not involved directly with enforcement, but as an angler and as a research biologist, I'm on the water a lot. I see a lot of things. And my recommendation is, and I know it's frustrating because, even when I make a phone call, the CO may not always follow up immediately. There's only so many. We can't blame the COs. We need to support our COs, okay? You need to call the MNR tips line. And when you call that tips line, have as much information as you can, even to the point where, if you find something, mark a pin on your phone in Google Maps, give the latitude and longitude of that pin in the message when you call. So there's no mistaking what's going on. Take pictures, any kind of evidence that you can find. In these dumping cases, there might be actually a label, a letter, like something from a household. It may not be the person that did it, but at least it's evidence that could be ruled out at another time because someone might have a good alibi, they weren't there. But I know it's frustrating when we always can't have an instant result. We work in a society now where we want instant feedback. It doesn't always happen that way, but what MNR will work to do is they will work to patrol those areas. The Muskoka River is an area that is, like other major spawning rivers, like in central Ontario, it's a known area for poaching. It happens. They can't be everywhere at once. However, it shouldn't stop us from supporting our COs and helping them deliver. One thing that a lot of anglers, I think, should do, well, I'm going to mention two things. Number one, when you go to a sportsman show or a trade show of any kind, go to the MNR booth. Talk to the COs that are there. Network with them, especially if you're part of a fishing association like the Canadian Fishing Network, or maybe you're part of a local fishing game club. Get to know your local COs. COs also change a lot. With government employees, unfortunately, there's a lot of movement within the ranks and people move in and out of districts. Work with the COs to educate them about, who your group is, how you can help them. I've made some great relationships with COs to the point where, like with my job, because I work out of Burlington, but I work anywhere from Algonquin Park to Tobermory to Windsor to Ottawa. Okay, so I cover all the southern districts, and because of my uniqueness of my job, most COs kind of know who I am, and to the point where I've had tips called on me because I've been out sampling. They see nets in the water. They want to know what's this big gorilla out there dragging fish out of the net. And literally, my cell phone rings. And I'm like, "Oh, restricted call." It means it's either work or somebody else. So I answer it, and a few times it's been the CO from the local MNR office saying, "Hey, Jay, it's Bob over here at Elmer District Office got a call about some nets over at this lake. You guys over there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I sent you guys an email, and they might not have gotten the email because it goes to like an inbox, because I try and tell the COs when I'm going to be out. But it's true, like I have had people sitting on the hillsides with binoculars with their cell phone in their hand. So it does work. The system does work, because I've been questioned by the M&R before, even though I have a marked truck and a marked boat and I'm wearing a hat and shirt and everything. So, but I don't mind getting stopped. I'm happy that people are out there reporting. So use the tips line, make the call, support your COs by going up to them at the trade shows, asking them questions. How can we get a hold of you? Can I have a copy of your business card? Most of them have business cards. You can call some of these guys directly on their cell phone if you want to. If you really want to get interesting, you can go in Ontario on the InfoGo website. If you look up Google InfoGo, you can look up the phone number of every ministry employee for every Ontario ministry, including MNRF. So if you give me
I didn't know that. Wow.
You give me 2 minutes, I could look up every MNR CO number, their office number, and email address. It's all public information. It's called InfoGo. If you go to InfoGo, look up Ministry of Natural Resources, and then you got to kind of work through the menus, but you can find every MNR employee in Ontario in that website.
Now,
Everybody.
I have to ask, Jay, and I don't know if it's their cell phone that would get rung, or if it's offered on that list. Do the COs prefer you to reach out to them directly, or would they rather you go through the tips?
So I would go through the tips line, but what I'm suggesting is, over the years, some of the COs I've become friends with, and not because of my profession, but because I'm an angler. You know, I can even tell you a funny story with Alicia and TJ. They were out fishing on the Thames one day, and I was there. Trevor and I were there the day before. We were sucker fishing in the spring, and a CO came up to them, and we're like, and of course, walleye poaching happens on the Thames. Alicia and TJ weren't walleye poaching; they were sucker fishing. But the CO had mentioned he knew who I was because I was posting pictures of suckers on Instagram and Facebook. So these COs do get around, and it was funny that Alicia and TJ ran into a CO that knew me, and not because of my job, but because I'm a kook who likes to catch weird species. That's how he knew who I was. So sometimes if you might build a relationship with your CO, your local CO. So I know, like at the London Boat Show, I go there every year. I love going to the MNRF booth and chatting with the conservation officers. I introduced myself, and often not as a research biologist, but as an angler. Hey, I live in Delhi, and we often have people fishing in Big Creek out of season because it's a sanctuary in the wintertime. Who can I call? And it's kind of a bit of a redundant question, because I might ask that question to every CO, but when they're new, I like to just build those relationships. In fact, I know somebody who recently took COs around to show them some of the local fishing spots, actually between Ingersoll and St. Mary's. An angler who took it upon himself to show them around because they were new to the area. Like we need to build these. We need to build the COs up a lot, and they will help us. But let's work on building the relationships. The other thing I'm going to suggest is with CFN is there's Ontario Conservation Officers Association, there's a Manitoba Conservation Officers Association, there's a Saskatchewan, Alberta. On the CFN pages in all those different provinces, let's make sure up in the announcements we have links to those various organizations, and maybe a sticky post about how to report a crime, and lay it right out.
Absolutely.
And there's numbers and email addresses for all those provinces. I think CFN could really help with these instances where these instances will happen, but let's help the system, not work against it. And my final thing about this, talk to your member of parliament, talk to your MPP. We need more funding to MNRF and all provincial conservation agencies, and we need more enforcement on the land. Heck, we need more research on the landscape. We need a lot of things, but definitely enforcement is something that we could see more of. I know MNRF just recently hired, or is going through a hiring process for more COs. That's great. Let's hope they do hire a bunch more, and we can cover this off. On the coast, they deal more with Fisheries and Oceans Canada. They actually have fisheries officers who monitor the coastal areas. Our fisheries officers in Ontario that are here, it's interesting in Ontario, the COs manage the fishing regulations, and DFO, fisheries officers, manage habitat regulations. But that's important to know too, because if you see something like somebody working in the creek, doing something like that, they're good to reach out to. The other, I know this is I'm just rambling now. You got me on it.
It's awesome, dude. I think it's great. I'm listening. It's wonderful.
So recently, and this is another example, and I've helped people do this, the spills hotline. That's another one you should have in your phone. There's an angler from the Halliburton area, a crappie angler, Matt. He found a leaking fuel into the Head River, which flows into Head Lake, which is at the top end of Cashawega-Wigamog. Okay, we all know that lake.
Yep.
If you're from the Halliburton area or been through there. There was an old, I want to say a fuel tank or some sort of tank underground that had a slow leak, and you could see the hydrocarbons leaking out of this tank into that run where I've seen walleye spawning in before, right in downtown Halliburton, right?
Yep. Yep.
He called the spills hotline and had it taken care of. People came out. Now, sometimes these things aren't taken care of overnight, but identified the problem. People are on it. They're going to make a difference. And it was because he phoned the spills hotline. Goodyear Dam in Bowmanville 1 year had a spill, a gasoline spill or diesel spill. And believe it or not, I was working in the area at the time at Central Ontario Conservation Authority, but I didn't find out about the spill because of that. I went fishing after work in Bowmanville Creek one fall, and I'm like, what is all this shininess on the water? There was a diesel spill in Bowmanville Creek, and we called the spills hotline. They came out right away. We need to have these things in our phone so that you're not going on Facebook, putting a picture and complaining about it. Take action. Take action. Save those numbers in your phone. Tips hotline, spills hotline for every province that you live in or you fish in. Have that information, because when you need it, usually when you need it, you forget it, but have it in your phone saved. You'll make a difference. And all it takes is for you to make the difference once, and you're helping all of us. You're helping everybody.
Absolutely. I've been around where I've seen others get mad at CO when they came by to check info. We as CFN family treat them with respect. You get to get the information from what is respectful and polite. Absolutely, Jeremy. And that's truly how we should be conducting ourselves in front of them. At the end of the day, we have nothing to hide because we're doing nothing wrong.
Like when you take your videos too and your pictures, pictures are great, but videos good too, because you can state your name, state where you're from, state where you are, the date, the time of day. This is why the judges in the FishOFF want all that information in the video so they can link it back to something. A video with the same information goes a long way as well, because then they can link it back to exactly a time and a date, because some of that is admissible in court if given to the right people. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's interesting that you touch on that when it comes to the video aspect of how you submit a fish. It is above and beyond what a lot of fish platforms, like Fish Donkey, for instance. I think they just got into the video, but we had been approached by many platforms like Fish Donkey to do our submissions for the FishOFF. And I remember speaking to them, and when I told them how many species we normally catch in a season or during our tournament, it just blew them away. I said, no way you can catalog all that. I said, well, we've got a diehard group that does. So
it works.
It does. So far, knock on wood, it does. So outside of kayak fishing, what are you going to be doing upcoming this week, Jay?
Well, I got to add one thing to the chat room here. I'm going to encourage everyone to go check this out. So a good friend in the fishing community, Heather Bocek, she had a head injury this year, and Heather is seeking, she has to get medical treatments for her concussion is what's happening. And I'm going to give credit to the Parkers, Mike and Dana. They did a fundraiser already and raised $2,000. Heather needs a lot more than that for her head treatment. She's going through these treatments where they have to pressurize. I'm paraphrasing, I'm not a doctor, but they have to pressurize her head to help with these treatments, and she has to go periodically for these tests and these treatments, but they're not covered by OHIP. So Debbie Thompson, who's a friend of the community, she's works for Big Rock Distributors. So she's done this herself. She started this auction. I've made a couple donations. There's actually a charter in that auction with Greg Emile. There's a Dave Chong charter in that auction. There's a whole bunch of prizes, and the auction is it's open to anyone. You can put a bid on each item, and we want to make sure that we can help Heather and Brent out with their medical expenses.
Now, Jeanette, I think I was on the same day you were. They were having issues with the link, but I do believe since then, I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, you went on it. I was having the same issue. The link now works.
Yeah.
Don't hold me to it, but there was an issue with it at one point, but it works now.
And Christina, so that Bass mailbox is over here in my basement. Hey, Stephanie, go grab the Bass mailbox. So a couple years ago, or maybe 5 years ago now, I was in the Perchin for MS, and I won this mailbox in the raffle. And so I have this mailbox in my basement, which I've never put up. Come here, Stephanie. You can be my Vanna White. Come on over here.
My Vanna White.
This is one of the prizes in the auction.
Holy smokes.
Is there anything in there?
No.
No, nothing in there. Nothing. No news. No news today. Thanks, Stephanie.
We can put this outside when we get mail.
Yeah, that's right. So that's one of the prizes. You could go put a bid on that, and all the money goes directly to covering the medical expenses for the boat checks. And you know, I know the boat checks. Brent's a good friend of mine. He's a pro staff member with Berkeley. But you know what? He used to do the seminar tours with me and Rob and a bunch of us, you know, and man, those are such good times. I'm looking forward to getting back to that, but I really want to support those guys and what's going on with them. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and because we're getting close to bass season, Scotty, is this weekend starts, because of COVID, they've rescheduled the Bassmasters Classic. So let's wish Gussie, Chris, and Corey Johnston good luck at the Classic this week. Live coverage all week. If you go to the live link, there's an international viewing link. And if it's too hot to fish, or maybe you're out fishing and you want to burn through some data on your phone, you might want to check into the live updates for the Bassmasters Classic this week from Fort Worth, Texas. So, yeah, it's awesome. There's a lot going on this week. So for us, man, we just have to get as many species as we can. Oh, first time I use a Berkeley player. Oh, nice. So they got my gift pack from the spring. It took a little while to get out because of supply chain issues, but we took care of that, and happy to get some stuff out. And I got another bag. Those bags were supposed to be here, but they weren't. But I got one more to send out before bass season opens.
Can I say something?
You want to say something, Stephanie? All right, come on, quick.
Please do not talk about the Bassmasters Classic.
Oh, all right. So Stephanie was upset because usually the Bassmasters Classic is on her birthday weekend in March. So COVID has moved it to June. So she's not too happy about that. So she, the 1 year at the Classic, we were there, and it was her birthday, and Gerald Swindle saying happy birthday to her in the autograph line. Yeah. Gerald Swindle saying happy birthday to Stephanie. So that's a pretty cool moment. So
wow. Incredible.
But that's it. We got a lot of species to catch up. You know, on some of my posts, oh my goodness, there's such great fish being caught, and people are praising the 2 red horse that we got. And I'm like, what are you praising us for? You guys have like 10 species. We got ground to make up. But Trevor's upstairs recruiting right now because his baseball buddy, who's not fishing yet, playing baseball yet, and may not this year, he's an awesome angler, Owen. And he has a kayak as well. So Trevor's got this mindset that I'll take our little tin boat. Owen will take his kayak. Trevor takes his. Dad will take the measuring board, and we're just gonna bomb some local waterways over the next week or two with Owen and Trevor. And Stephanie, now that Trevor's got a kayak, Stephanie's got a regular seat in the boat, so she's quite happy with this too.
Yeah, I'm happy.
It's win-win.
Well, there you go. And I will ask CFN as a whole, is that not what it's all about? The CFN Fish Off right there. That's what it's all
What
about.
it's all about, getting kids out fishing. If all I have to do is measure fish and those kids just want to bring them to me, that's no problem. I'm happy just to measure. If I don't have to catch them, I'm good with that.
Beautiful. Right on. Well, listen, Jay, Steph, Trevor, and the rest of the BARNUCZ family, thanks so much for joining us, as you do each Monday, bringing us up to date with some of the things that we need to know, some of the things that we need to do, and how we can report things that we don't like to see.
Thanks, everyone. Stay hydrated out there. Don't get too much sunscreen and water, and go fishing. Let's get it done. See you later.
Right on. Take care, guys. Well, I'll tell you, it's almost the end of another show, and let me share the screen because we have to find some winners here. And I will go over to the name wheel, the infamous name wheel. There it is in its wow. There it is in all of its fame and glory with all the names. We had 2, 4, 6, 7 of you wonderful CFNers that tagged a store, a tackle shop, mod paw shop, somewhere close to you that you enjoy going to, that you would like to see Madcam Plastics as well as Walter's Baits in. And it's just that simple. But unfortunately, we only have 7 this week. Not a big deal. We're going to give it away to some very worthy CFNers. So I need a number between 1 and 4. And I will shuffle it that many times. 1 and 4, first number that pops up between 1 and 4. We'll shuffle the deck that many times, and we will start spinning 4. There you go, Jeremy. Well done, my friend. Thanks so much for that. We're going to shuffle it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's spin the wheel to find out who's going to win a nice little prize pack. Last angler standing. That's how it runs. Last angler standing. At the end of all these spins is our winner, William TB. Oh man, and you're the off color, and you know it almost stuck out like a sore thumb. I feel bad for that because it was nice to see your name. It was the first time I saw your name. Is it everyone that's going to be green that's going to be eliminated from the wheel? I wonder, William, have you set a trend? Oh my word, have you set a trend or what? Please get it past David, or have we set a trend? We have not. Thank you. Holy crap. That almost became awkward. All right. Sorry, Shotter. You do some great stuff for us, buddy. Thanks so much for all your sharing. Unfortunately, we eliminated you from the wheel, but not from our hearts, buddy. You are top shelf. Tony Sizanowski. Wow. It's not often I see you lose, my friend. Holy smokes. Bit of a drought right now. Last angler standing. Thanks for all your sharing, Tony. And lots of sharing, lots of great positive content and comments that go on our CFN page on a regular basis from these 4. So I can't think of 4 anglers that are more worthy. Let's spin the wheel. Last angler standing. Is it going to be Richard? Is it going to be Steve? Is it going to be Curtis? Or is it going to be David? It does not look like it's going to be David. Holy smokes. Sorry, David. David Speaker. I finally got your name right. There's 3 left. Is it going to be Curtis? Is it going to be Steve? Is it going to be Richard? Let's find out. Last angler standing. This will decide the winner and the runner-up on this spin of the wheel. And ooh, is it going to stop? Is it going to keep going? Curtis Boyle. Runner-up to 2 heavyweights, Richard Dunlop and Steve Shaw. And let's find out who wins. So remember, last angler standing. If it lands on Richard, Richard is out. Steve is our winner. If it lands on Steve, Steve is out. Richard is our winner. Let's find out who it is. Okay, my word. It couldn't get any closer. It could not get any closer. Holy smokes. Steve Shaw, that means Richard Dunlop is our winner. Congratulations to you, Richard, for winning. You do some wonderful stuff for CFN, including organizing all of our jerseys. I know you're going to put some of this stuff to great use. Thanks again for all you do. Thanks again for everyone who tags somebody. Really appreciate that. This Thursday coming up, we're going to have a new guest on. Looking forward. Jamie David is going to be joining us, and he's going to bring to light a whole new series of stuff that is going to be involved with CFN, and we're really looking forward to that. Steve Shaw got us in touch with Jamie, and he's actually texted me a couple times already tonight. True North Baits. If you don't know them, you will come Thursday. We are looking for a second, possibly a third to join us. So if you are a company that sponsors, whether it be financially or through product, the CFN Fish Off or CFN in general, we'd love to have you on. I know we still have quite a few to get to in regards to that, but as I said, right now, True North Baits is going to be joining us on Thursday, and we're looking for a second, possibly third. If you're interested or you know somebody that is, get them in touch with me, and let's get it done, baby. In the meantime, let's get the CFN Fish Off done. Join us tomorrow. Mike and I are going to be doing a draw that was basically the pre-tournament draw. So stay tuned to that. Some great prizes we're going to be giving away tomorrow. And then, of course, TNT Thursdays with right now True North Baits and our good buddy Jamie. Till then, enjoy your week. Stay cool. I hope your lines are tight. Hope you all stay safe. Hope you catch lots of fish. And of course, Cliff Moore's. Join him Wednesday night, 10:30 our time. I think 7:30 their time for the BCFN podcast. So much looking forward to that as well. All the best, guys. Love you all. Take care. Stay safe. And we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.